Good afternoon, everybody. It's Dee here. Today's date is Sunday, the 7th of July. And today I'm going to be talking about the astro weather for next week. So the week beginning the 8th of July through to the following Sunday, the 14th of July. So a few things I want to discuss today. The weird tunnel that we're in now between the two eclipses. I want to talk a little bit about Venus in Cancer and the aspect it makes this week to Uranus. We're talking about Mercury retrograde and Mars approaching that Mercury, which is a weird kind of aspect that doesn't happen very often. And then on the Friday, we have got the Mars-Uranus square. So I would dedicate this week to being grumpy week because there's a lot of quite grumpy Mars aspects, and if you put Uranus in the mix as well, that kind of like fires things up a lot. So so grumpy week this week. But I don't want to start off on a grumpy note. I'd rather start on a Venusian note. So the one that I didn't pick up on last week was Venus's entry into Cancer. This is my own Venus sign. Whenever the sun hits your Venus, I think it's always a good time to do nice things for yourself and to do the things that you love. So that could be a little personal makeover stuff, or it could be just doing those kind of things that you enjoy as part of your Venus sign. So Venus in Cancer is quite a homely sign. It's not a very sexy sign really romantically, it's having Venus in Cancer, sadly, but it likes to take care of people, and it likes to protect them and to feed them quite often. So a lot of cooking going down if you've got Venus in Cancer. So love of old things. I know myself, I love old things, old furniture. I love old buildings, ancient languages, stories, those kinds of things. So there's a lot of like love of history comes in with Venus in Cancer as well. And also the thing about your Venus is the fact that you like people with the sign's characteristics. So for me, I will like Cancerian people, so people with a strong Cancerian feel to their chart, so sun in Cancer or moon in Cancer or Cancer rising, and I will appreciate them. So it's one of the reasons why if you do synastry charts, so there's charts comparing two people and how well they're going to get on, one of the most favourable aspects to look at is a Sun-Venus connection, because you are going to like each other, and to like somebody is really important, to appreciate them, to share values, because as I've said before, Venus is about what you value and what you appreciate. So for somebody like myself who's got a Venus in Cancer, I will appreciate those Cancerian values of taking care of home and family, about protecting people, about being loyal, sort of also this kind of sense of history and routine and, celebration, tradition, those sorts of things. Cancer's about ancestry, your ancestral heritage. So all those things, if you've got a strong Cancer presence in your chart, somebody with Venus in Cancer like me will appreciate and love. So it's worth having a look at where your Venus is and what sign it's in, and think about that in relation to the people who you like and who you appreciate. And if you are not attracting people into your life that are having those qualities, well, why not? Why, is your Venus afflicted in some way, or are you choosing people who are not right for you? Are you choosing people who don't share those values that you have to in your soul and in your essence? So it's always worth having a look at that in relation to relationships. So that's a little bit about sort of the Venus sign. And the next thing I want to talk about is that Venus this week is making a sextile aspect to Uranus. And again, that's one that I have natally, so I can talk about that from a point of knowledge and experience. And it's about appreciating difference. Uranus is about things that are different and unusual and not the norm, not conventional. And I would say that's particularly true of myself. You know, that can come out in terms of like the kind of clothes you like to wear, the people you kind of hang around with. You like to hang around with people who are different to you, from different countries, from different cultures. It could be that you like people who have unconventional relationships. So, I mean, unconventional in the nicest sense of the word. I'm not being derogatory to anybody when I say that. It's just that if you think about the standard, what is most people would call a norm, I wouldn't call it a norm at all, of heterosexual relationships, Venus and with any aspect to Uranus will not look at people in that kind of traditional sense. They're quite happy for people to have whatever love and happiness that they want in their life, and are more open to appreciating diversity in that respect. And I think that that's the fact that, you know, Uranus tends to shape our future and that kind of forward-looking approach. I think this week having that Venus sextile Uranus is very appropriate, as it comes as part of Pride Month and people appreciating difference. And, you know, just looking at a couple of different things this past couple of weeks, you know, things like, you know, somebody like Little Nas X, who's a black man from the South, being able to come out as being gay, and still, you know, being part of the rap community. That's really, you know, forward looking, and being able to do that is heartening. You know, I'm really glad that he feels that he's comfortable to be able to do that. If you look at somebody like Miley Cyrus, who brought out her video last week for Mother's Daughter, which, you know, had a lot of diversity in it. You know, it's about celebrating diversity amongst the gender fluid feminine side of things, whether that's, you know, men appreciating their feminine side or women appreciating more their masculine side, and all the sort of points in between. So I think that those are really representative of that Venus-Uranus energy of looking forward and appreciating diversity and the right to be who you are. And so that that is a really important thing going forward. And I think next week, when I'll talk about this obviously a bit more then, that when we have Venus coming into opposition with Saturn, I think that, you know, that's the older generation, obviously with it being Saturn, trying to pull us backwards to, you know, that kind of heterosexual white norm, because it is the white stale male men that are making these decisions. So, you know, be prepared for, again, a lot of pushback, a lot of the abortion laws, things that they're doing there. This is very much Saturn in Capricorn. Say old white men trying to put their traditional values onto women and not allowing them to have the right to be able to choose for themselves. So, you know, that is definitely like a Venus opposition, because obviously Venus being the sign of the feminine, and it's not necessarily the sign of women, but the sign of the feminine. So I'm including all forms in there of how you express that female energy and how you feel about the female energy that is inside of you. So, so yes, this week is a forward-looking week in that respect, but be prepared next week for some backward-looking motion with that kickback from that Saturn and that older generation, not appreciating those things maybe as much as people with Venus-Uranus contacts, or just younger people in general, because say Uranus is about looking forward into the future. So that's a little bit on that. So, we are now in the middle of the eclipse season. So we've burnt our bridge, we are through to the other side, but we have, like, if you think of it almost as a long tunnel before you get to the outside world again. So you're going to be in the midst of things this week. So not quite sure exactly where things are going to be heading. You're still in the dark, so you're still in this tunnel. There are dangers and explosions coming with Mars and Uranus, so watch out for those falling boulders. I keep thinking, in my head, I keep thinking of this Raiders of the Lost Ark kind of image of, you know, particularly for this week, with that Mars-Uranus of, you know, explosions and things coming out at you from the dark, and it all being a bit scary, but, you know, you just got to get to the other side. There's no way back. So while you're in the middle of this week, be kind to yourself. Don't try to do too much too soon, because the landscape isn't clear yet. You're not out of this tunnel yet. Wait another week or so, and ideally wait until Mercury's gone forward as well, to make any definite sign on the dotted line plans. So with both being in the middle of the eclipse season and also the Mercury retrograde, which starts tomorrow, it's about turning inward on yourself and just say writing things down. Look at your dreams, look at where you want to be, the ideas, take the time to you know, almost daydream off and just like look at what the possibilities could be. Because we were saying last week about the fact with the North Node in Cancer, it's the idea of clearing space for the new and what you want in the place of that. What you know, you've got rid of certain things. That's Saturn in Capricorn, Pluto in Capricorn thing. So you've made some space in your life. You've got rid of certain things, but how do you want to fill that? So it's just getting those ideas generated. And I always think a Mercury retrograde period is a really good time for that. Is that kind of lovely kind of reflection. And with it being, with Mercury being in the sign of Leo, it's about thinking about you. So it's all about you. So Mercury retrograde, like I say, from tomorrow right up until the end of the month. It goes forward on the 1st of August, and you were not going to be out of the shadow phase for, I think it's, let me just double check this, until the 12th of August. 12th? Oh, it's 15th. Can't even read my own writing. So 15th of August is when you're actually clear of it. So don't sign anything during that time. So, or if you do, make sure everything's double, triple checked. You've read all the clauses. Everything's locked down. I mean, sometimes you can't help but have to do these things, but just make sure that you read through everything carefully if you are signing for anything. Try and avoid buying any electrical items, because you can guarantee they're going to go wrong forever. So don't buy any new cars or vacuum cleaners or anything like that. I made that mistake once of buying a vacuum cleaner during Mercury retrograde, and I had nothing but trouble with the damn thing. So there you go. So try and avoid buying any kind of electrical goods. I've had a weird experience with the clocks in my house, which are very Saturnian things. That all of them have decided to go mad, along with my watch. For the moment, I am clockless. We haven't got a decent one, but I'm not going to buy any more. I mean, I've had to buy myself a watch, but I bought myself a cheap one, so I'm not fussed if it does go wrong in the meantime. But yeah, kind of a weird one, that there's for suddenly all the clocks to go bonkers in your house during this time, because obviously Saturn rules time. So yeah, weird one there. But yeah, just be wary of your travel plans. Make extra time for travelling anywhere. Be prepared for delays if you're going anywhere by train, by plane, or even by car, because you often get things like roadworks deciding to spring up. Postal strikes is another one I found quite common during a Mercury retrograde. Things not turning up when they should turn up. So if you're expecting documents from people, don't be surprised if they get caught in the post or just don't arrive to you. But the other one, particularly this week, I think to be aware of is the fact that with Mercury slowing down, Mars is actually creeping up on it. Now, that does not happen very often. It's usually the other way around. Mercury is the one that sort of speeds through and catches up with stuff. So for that Mars to be creeping up onto that Mercury, it's like, ooh, that could be sneaky things coming through from the past. It could be exes turning up out of the blue. People that you haven't seen for a long time, but not in a good way. Right, these people were never good for you, so don't be giving them the time of day now just because you're feeling a bit nostalgic or feeling a bit out of sorts. Because don't forget, say Venus in Cancer likes a bit of the nostalgia, but these people are not good for you. So if somebody, some ex turns up out of the blue, playing on all the heartstrings that they used to be able to play with you, warning, don't go there. Not a good idea. Put up those Saturn boundaries. You know, you've learnt your lessons about these people. They are not going to change. You might be feeling a bit lonely and sad at the moment because your new life hasn't really kicked off yet, but that isn't an excuse to let these people back in, because they mean nothing but trouble. They are not good for you. So be wary of that. Be wary of people coming back in, or situations, or bad habits, or anything that's just not good for you, creeping up behind you and slipping back into your life. So if you've been very good, like for example about, you know, like having a new diet or getting rid of old habits, like, you know, giving up smoking or whatever it happens to be, just be careful this week of that. You know, you're resisting that temptation to actually, you know, go back there, because no, you gave it up for a reason. You gave these people up for a reason. They haven't changed. You have. Time to go. Bye bye. Off you go. The other thing that was said about Mercury and Mars, and later in the week Mars square Uranus, is that it has the tendency to give arguments and for flare-ups to happen. And I was thinking of an analogy for this, about sort of how you negotiate this, and I kept on thinking of the film Speed, because obviously Mars is about travelling and moving along and energy forward and all of that. But then Uranus is that kind of unexpected factor, and it is associated with explosions and with bombs. So your way forward on later this week, Thursday, Friday, when this aspect is really strong, is to think of yourself as being on that bus and having to keep travelling at that 60 mile an hour, not going below, not going any higher. You've got to go at 60 miles an hour if you're going to avoid that bomb going off. So it's about being super careful, negotiating through all the obstacles that might come at you through your way, people trying to provoke you, situations making you frustrated, just so that bomb on your particular bus does not go off. So that's what I would say. You know, think of that little image in mind of the bus having to keep going forward, but having to keep at this speed limit and negotiate all these obstacles if you are to avoid those flare-ups, because they are there to provoke you this week. It will be, you know, getting that parking ticket and just kicking off with somebody as a result, or the boss speaks to you the wrong way, or your partner says the wrong thing, and you know that could could all kick off as a result of that. So you want to kind of avoid that if you can. If you want to look at that aspect in a more positive note with the Mars-Uranus square, I would say, again, it's about looking forward, because Uranus is forward-looking. And it's about the conflict between your drives and your energy and the future. So where are those things that cross purposes with each other? Are you still hankering back to the past in some way, shape or form? Is your bus travelling actually backwards, not forwards? Think about it. Or is your bus trying to go in, you know, downtown, and you want to go uptown? So usually when Uranus is kind of provoking you, it's saying, well, the reason why I'm provoking you is because we're not having this status quo. Uranus doesn't like status quo. It likes to say, keep it moving, keep it original, keep it moving forward. So you've got to be thinking about, why is this Uranus provoking me, you know, into getting angry? Which bits of my life am I not sorting out, and which things am I not facing? You know, have I been avoiding, you know, like if your partner, say, pricks a certain bit of you and you've just gone off on one about it, is it because you have neglected some things? You know, the fact that, you know, she's again telling you that you haven't been taking responsibility in the house, or you're saying to him, look, you know, you're not pulling your weight round here, you know, I'm doing all the work, this is not fair. It could be anything, you know. Say, look to where that maybe you've got into bad habits and that you need to change in the way that you do things for the sake of your partner and for yourself as well. You know, it's like, if you want your relationships to be going well, you've got to allow for compromise, and sometimes we can get into very bad habits and just ignore certain things, and if your partner's easygoing, they will let it ride, and then suddenly poof, it goes off. And it's likely to be during that Uranus kind of transit that these things are likely to happen. So yeah, text your week, tread carefully. Imagine you're walking through a bit of landmines, if you like. And they say keep my little speed analogy in mind as well, so that you can negotiate this week and come out the other side feeling okay and not having been blown half to bits by certain things. And if you want a good thing, and you want to get in touch with your sort of Cancerian energy, wherever that is, and the Venus sort of side of things, be kind to yourself. Give yourself some comfort food. Give yourself, a nice bath. That's very Cancerian. Cancerian loves being in water. So just be kind to yourself and do something good. Treat yourself this week. Maybe a nice little massage or a nice little steam or a swim or something like that. And that will help you feel more relaxed and able to cope with the frustrations of the Mercury retrograde and that Mars-Uranus energy. Okay then, well, thank you for listening, and I shall speak to you very soon.